Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our regular Tuesday evening. It's a dark and stormy night over here in Shelly Beach area, and I think it's quite a dark and stormy night in a lot of other areas as well. And I know a lot of people are battling with load shedding, etc. So this is being recorded and will be sent out. So to those who will be watching the recording, welcome, and I hope it helps. So I was asked a little while back when I was asking for various subjects to speak about how to read labels on food products as well as nutritional supplement products. So I've cobbled together a couple of things, which I found quite interesting while doing the prep, and I hope it is helpful for others as well. So let me share my screen. And hide this little goodie, and hide this little goodie, and get going over there. Right, so how to read supplement labels and food additives, because often on the labels you've got food additives, and a lot of the time it's almost in code words. So what is being put into the food, the medication, and the supplements? So hopefully this will help clarify a little bit of the fine print that we see so regularly. So we're going to start off with nutrition labels. And nutrition labels can be helpful when it comes to making healthy eating decisions. So obviously, raw food is the best, and they don't come with labels because it's as nature intended. And we should know that majority of what we're eating is healthy, and we don't really need to know all the bits and pieces. But as soon as man gets hold of it and he starts to process this food and packages it, by law, there has to be a label telling us pretty much what's in there. The information they provide can guide you on which products are best for you and your family. But obviously, you need to know or understand the language that is being written over there and the formulation. But understanding how to read a nutrition label can seem daunting if you don't have a degree in nutrition, because there's all sorts of funny words and terms and amounts, and it can be quite mind-blowing at times. So to make it easy, we've put together the step-by-step guide so you can feel like a pro the next time you head to the supermarket. And this information, I got compliments of the Mayo Clinic. So they're the professionals, and I've merely borrowed some of their information to share with you. So number one is you need to check the serving size. How many servings are in the container? If you take a tin of, or now a packet of Neolife Shake, for instance, you will see that there are usually about 16 servings in that container. But how much is a single serving? The serving may be smaller than you think. So a serving, is a serving a teaspoon? Is it a tablespoon? Is it a bowl? Is it a large plate? Is it a large bowl? How big is a serving? Not the serving that makes you feel full, but the serving that is recommended by the dietitians. So a package may also appear to only contain a single serving, but it could contain multiple servings. So you need to try to stick to just one serving. For instance, the Neolife tea, the little stick, has 2 servings per stick. But you can also have it in 1 serving. Just make sure your container is big enough. So all the nutrition info, including the calories, refer to the amount in 1 serving. 20 years ago, people tended to eat smaller amounts than they do now. The updated serving size reflects what people are likely to eat or drink, and not necessarily the portions they should eat. Because 20 years ago, we had a lot more healthy food, which made you feel fuller, quicker, and made you feel fuller for longer. But with all the processing that's happening these days, quite often you can have a large portion, but with a lot of calories, but you don't feel full because it's empty calories. For example, one serving size of ice cream is labeled as 2/3 of a cup. A 340 gram or 567 gram or a bottle of soda is labeled as 1 serving. The updated portion size gives people a more realistic view of the number of calories they are consuming. So when you look at a label like this gives you a pretty good idea. If you can see my cursor over here, but there's the nutrition facts. The servings are larger in bold type. So in this particular one, there are 8 servings per container, and the serving size is 2/3 of a cup or 55 grams. It contains 230 calories, and that also has to be in large type. And then it gives you your daily values that have been updated. So your total fat, which is broken down into saturated fats and trans fats, your cholesterol, your sodium, your total carbohydrates, which is dietary fiber, total sugars, and includes added sugars, and your protein. So you've got, as we know, with food, if you have a complex carbohydrate, your body will convert its own correct sugars. So lactose to lactase, for instance, fructose to fructase, for instance, and sucrose to sucrase. So that's the body converting the complex carbohydrate to the simple carbohydrates. But sometimes, or quite often, unfortunately, they add in the simple carbohydrates, which is added sugars. And sometimes they've also got to add in the nutrients that are required, and as well as the actual amounts declared. And then there's also the really fine print, which is the footnote. So you need to be able to read all of these things. 40 calories is low. 100 calories is moderate. 400 calories or more is high. Remember, if you eat multiple servings, you'll need to multiply the calories by the number of serving that you eat. So if you're on a calorie restricted diet, this figure becomes very, very important. So what is a calorie? We often hear about calories, or in fact, we regularly hear about calories, but what is a calorie? Like a teaspoon, like a tablespoon, it is a measurement. Calorie is a unit of measurement, but it doesn't measure weight or length. So it's not millimeters or meters or inches or kilograms or grams or pounds or ounces or whatever. Calorie is a unit of energy. When you hear something contains 100 calories, it's a way of describing how much energy your body could get from eating or drinking it. Larger, darker letters make calories the easiest item to see. Remember, this is potential energy, not kinetic energy. We won't get into all the physics, etc. with this, but potential energy is what is there until, so it's stored energy up until the time that you require that energy. As Dr. Fred Hooper likes to say, some people have a lot more potential energy in their bodies than others, but it is that energy that is stored and ready to be used. So when it comes to health outcomes, the type of fat you eat matters more than the overall amount of fat. For this reason, the label shows percentages of calories from unhealthy, saturated, and trans fats rather than the percentage of calories from all fat. So it can be quite confusing as to what all of these figures actually mean, which is why they now have to break it down, but they put it in fine print because they don't really want you to understand all the bad stuff that goes in there as well. You need to check the percentage daily value. It used to be the recommended daily value, now it's the percentage daily value. So the percentage daily value will often be shown as a DV. Yeah, we talk about PV and QPV and all the rest. Well, in dietary terms, we talk about DV, or daily value. And that tells you how much a nutrient in a serving of food contributes to a daily diet. So 2,000 calories a day is used for general nutrition advice. Low is 5% or less. Aim for low in saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, sodium, and added sugars. High is 20% or more. Aim high in vitamins, minerals, and dietary fiber. And this is where you've got to check the fine print as well, which is the ingredients. Now, ingredients are listed by volume. The higher up on the list an ingredient is, the more of it the product contains. So I've personally had a look at some children's nutrition supplements in a well-known chain store, and they're chewable jelly type supplements. You look at them, and the first thing that is listed on the ingredient list is sugar. I'm not too sure I want my child to have that. Yes, the kids love it. Yes, they have a lot of energy, but it's the wrong energy. Make sure sugar isn't one of the first ingredients listed, unless, of course, it is a bag of sugar. But in any processed food, you don't want sugar to be the first ingredient. Sugar goes by many names because they try to confuse us as well. And these include high fructose corn syrup, barley malt syrup, and dehydrated cane juice, to name a few. All of those are sugar in a purified form, and sugar in a purified form is a simple carbohydrate and not a good thing to have. Some of these labels have got 2 columns. So some food and drink packages contain more than 1 serving, but a person may consume the contents of the whole package at one time. For example, a half liter of ice cream or a bag of chips. 2 columns provide calorie and nutrition information for 1 serving and for the whole package. So what nutrients should you limit? Nutrients shown on a nutrition label can impact your health in a positive or a negative way. So it's important to know which ones to limit and which ones to eat more of. Saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, sodium, and added sugars are nutrients that you should cut down on. These nutrients can increase your risk of developing chronic diseases like heart disease and diabetes. Vitamin D and potassium values are required. Calcium and iron will continue to be required. Vitamins A and C will no longer be required, but can be included on a voluntary basis. Now remember, all of these things are the current legal label laws, which I think have been put together by the World Health Organization, but I'm under correction on that. The daily limit for sodium decreased slightly from 2,400 milligrams per day to 2,300 milligrams per day. So not a big decrease. This change matches the recommendation in the dietary guidelines for Americans for the years 20 to 2025. Keep your intake of added sugars to less than 10% of your total daily calories. That means if you consume 2,000 calories in a day, added sugars should account for no more than 200 calories. Remember, your added sugars are all those processed sugars. So read the nutrition facts labels on your packaged food and drinks to keep track of sugars, fats, protein, and other nutrients. And I do understand it's a schlep and it can be inconvenient at times, but this is why it's always a good idea to do your homework, find a brand that you're happy with, study the contents of it, of the ingredients, and stick with it. If you don't like what is in there, find a different brand. So when you first start to go through these things, check the labels, check the amounts, and find a brand or product that you are comfortable with, that fills in the bits and pieces that we need. Do yourself a favor, check that label every 2 months or so, because quite often these things change. I don't know if you've noticed, but some of our Neolife labels have changed. Part of that is because of labeling laws, but part of that is because they've now changed an ingredient, for instance. Now, Neolife, we know when they change the ingredients because they tell us about it. But most things on the shelf will change ingredients and change values, but they don't tell you. So it's a good idea to check and compare every 2 months or so that your favorite product that you're using hasn't changed somewhere along the line. So initially, it is a bit of a schlep to go through all the nutrition facts labels, but then just stick with the brand that you are comfortable with. Most sodium we consume is from salt, and salt is commonly used in processed foods. Read labels and choose the product with less sodium. As with anything, too much of something can be bad for you. Too much oxygen can be bad for you, but without oxygen, we can't live. Too much water can be bad for you, but without water, we cannot live. We will die. So too much of anything is bad. So you need to watch and see and make sure that you're getting sufficient. And don't forget, what you're seeing is just in one product. If you really want to do this properly, set aside a few hours to work out in all of the foods that you consume on a regular basis. If you care about your health, or more specifically, if somebody, you or a loved one, has got a dietary problem, help them to read food labels, help them to go through, create a food diary, see what it is that they're eating, and see where they can adjust, because it's not just from one meal, it's from everything that you consume during the day. So you've got to add up all of these things. This is where your primary school maths comes in handy. So ideally, we need to drink plain water instead of sugary beverages. We need to read the product's nutrition facts labels, and you need to rethink your drink, because juices are not healthy. Plain water, plain filtered water, I should probably add, is healthy. Most of what comes out of our taps these days is probably not healthy. So read the labels and think about what you're drinking, because sodas and things are loaded with sugar, as are juices. Limit the serving size of the treats. If you're going to have dessert, keep it small. Now, Charlie might disagree on this one, but again, be aware. Be sure you know how many servings are in the food that you're having. For example, if you buy what looks like an individual sized chicken pie, check the nutrition facts label. It might actually be 2 servings. If you eat the whole pie, you will eat twice as many calories and twice as much sodium as what is listed on the label. So which nutrients should we actually eat more of? Dietary fiber, vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium are nutrients you should strive to eat more of. These nutrients are essential for good health. For example, dietary fiber can help to lower blood sugar and cholesterol levels, as well as help to keep you feeling fuller for longer, which is why diabetics And people who are trying to lose weight need more fiber in their diet, because that way, specifically with diabetics, that extra fiber helps to mop up the excess sugar in the kidneys. And because they feel fuller for longer, their portion will be smaller, and they won't want to nibble on the junk food treats in between, which is often what leads to the obesity and the diabetes. And by boosting your diet with vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium, you can reduce your risk of developing osteoporosis, anemia, and high blood pressure. So what are the other names for sugar? So according to the FDA, you just move me out of the way over here. Added sugars include sugars that are added during the processing of foods, such as sucrose or dextrose. Foods packaged as sweeteners, such as table sugar, sugars from syrups and honey, sugars from concentrated fruit or vegetable juices. Added sugars do not include naturally occurring sugars that are found in milk, fruits, and vegetables. If these names appear in the ingredients list of your favorite beverage, you are drinking a sugar-sweetened beverage. So the names are cane juice, corn syrup, dextrose, fructose, fruit juice concentrates, fruit nectars, glucose, high fructose corn syrup, honey, malt syrup, maple syrup, and syrup, molasses, raw sugar, sucrose, and sugar cane. Now, not all of those are bad, in my opinion. As far as I know, raw natural honey is good. Maple syrup, the true maple syrup, not the maple flavored syrup, but the true maple syrup is good. Molasses is good, but you don't want too much. So total sugars include both added and natural sugars. Naturally occurring sugars are found in milk in the form of lactose, fruit in the form of fructose. Added sugars, on the other hand, are added during food processing and are the ones you want to limit. In addition to showing total percentages of calories from sugars, labels show the percentage from added sugars. Naturally occurring sugars, such as those in fruit or milk, are not added sugars. Added sugars include brown sugar, maple sugar, corn sweetener, corn syrup, honey, malt syrup, and molasses. Now, as far as I know, molasses is a good source of vitamin B as well, but be careful. Did you know that the two main sources of added sugars in the United States are sugary drinks and snacks and sweets, which include candies, desserts. Less than 10% of your daily calories should be from added sugars. Again, it's good to have a food diary, especially in the planning stages, to see what it is that you're eating. And to do a food diary, it is suggested that you take a period of between 3 to 5 days, and you make a note from the time that you open your eyes to the time that you close your eyes again of every single thing that crosses your mouth. Don't worry about it. If it goes past your lips, you make a note over that period of 3 to 5 days. Thereafter, you can have a close look and see where the too much is, where the not enough is, and where you need to supplement. If you eat even one large dessert or sugary drink per day, then you are likely getting more than the recommended daily limit of added sugar. If you are having a relatively small dessert a week, once per week, it's not that bad. You do not want to give too many. So I'm going to stop here because this is a couple of extra presentations that were done, not by me, but by this group called the National Heart, Lung and Blood Institute and Obesity Education Initiative. So what we'll go through next week and the week after is your portion distortion. So this is quite an interesting little thing that I saw that shows us how the portions have changed over the years. So I'm going to stop this here, and we will pick up again next week. Oh, good, we've got extra people on. So we've got a few minutes still. Does anybody have any comments or questions of what I've gone through so far before I stop the recording? Okay.